What type of business entity do you need? Casey Chauhan here, the tax bloke, and we're here with another video to help explain to you what a C-Corp is, the pros and cons of it, and then at the end, I will tell you what my favorite business entity is and if it's a good fit for you and your family. Let's get into it. So a sub-chapter C is what is commonly referred to as a C-Corp. What does it mean? What are the pros? What are the cons? Let's break them all down for you right now. So sub-chapter C is that we've talked about. So the main thing here we're talking about is can issue more than 100 shareholders. We talked about this on a previous video with S-Corps and how they cannot go over 100. That's the main difference between an S-Corp and a C-Corp here, where you can issue to more than 100 people. So if you're looking to raise a lot of capital, then this one is probably going to be the entity of choice for you in that venture, right? Because you can issue stock internationally and to other corporations, so you get a lot of flexibility there too. And then you can go both common and preferred types of stock. Again, getting super advanced here, but there are different types of stock and redemption around them to help incentivize different types of investors. So based on your valuation and your multiples and how much you're looking to raise, and all that great stuff, you can issue different types or subsets of stock as well. Really important to know. Similar to an LLC and an S-Corp, the C-Corp is also a separate business entity. It has its own EIN number. It's completely separate. So it's considered separate from the owners, meaning that the corporation can either enter into contracts, be sued, or sue other people as well. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but the reality is, and it pays tax separately from its owners. We're going to get into this, but double taxation is a real thing, and it is a setback of this type of entity. One of the main things that we talked about time and time again is limited liability. You do not personally want to be on the hook for any issues that come out of an investment you made or a business you own. So having limited liability is really key. So the shareholders of a C-Corp are not personally liable. Really, really important, right? For the debts or liabilities, which protects their personal assets like your home, your cars, your yachts, your planes. All those things are protected, and it's got nothing to do with the C-Corp, what's going on your personal side of things. Really important to know that that's very different from a sole prop where you are personally liable. Probably the most important thing about owning shares in a C-Corp is the ability to raise capital. People use C-Corps to raise money. So it goes without saying that this would be a great benefit, right? Because C-Corps can raise capital by selling shares of the stock, which can help the company grow and expand. If you could bring millions of dollars into your business, do you think you could grow and expand quicker than if you brought zero in? Obviously you can. The only question is, how many shareholders do you need? How can you portray the value of that company? It might be your baby. You might know it inside and out. But does somebody else externally value it the same way that you do? So we're getting off topic, but just to keep in line, you can raise a lot of money using C-Corp, and it's a great reason to set up a C-Corp in the first place. The flexibility involved in owning a C-Corp is second to none also, because you can have an unlimited number of shareholders, right? What that means is you can raise as much money as possible. You can have different classes of stock, so you can tier how much each person actually contributes or gets back, depending on the tier system. And this ultimately gives you the most amount of flexibility you could get when making an ownership decision, right? So having all of those subtypes for evaluation purposes and raising capital purposes is completely fantastic. And that is why most of the startups that I invest in personally tend to be in C-Corp form. And it's simply for that reason, is that they're looking to go out and get accredited investors and high net worth individuals like myself to invest money in. And their preference on type of entity is usually a C-Corp. So if you are looking to raise capital and you want to raise a lot of it, then a C-Corp might be a great option for you. Don't you all just want to live forever? Isn't that how the song goes? Perpetual existence is what we call that. So, a C Corp has perpetual existence, meaning it can continue to exist even after the owners change. Similar to a trust, right? If you have the right type of trust set up, it can be renewed every 20 plus years so that it lives on forever as well. It's really important when we start talking about estate planning, longevity, wealth transfer, legacy creation. This becomes a really big deal because you can transfer ownership of those shares without creating a taxable event. Make sure you speak to your advisor before you do any of that. One of the biggest drawbacks with a C Corp is double taxation. Why would you want to be taxed once, let alone twice? It doesn't make any sense. Be careful about what entity you use. All right, enough of the dramatics. Let's get into it. So a C Corp is double taxed. What does that mean? This means that the corporation pays tax on the profits, then the shareholders pay tax again on the dividends that they receive from the corporation. So you're getting hit twice. Nobody likes that. So why would you want to pay tax twice? You're going to pay tax at the corporation level and at the individual level. Makes no sense, right? I don't like it. Nobody likes it. It's just the way the rules are. So, like anything in life, you've got to do your own research. You've got to weigh the pros and the cons and see what is the best fit for you and your family. Complexity and regulations. This is probably a key one as well. There are a lot more rules and regulations involved in a C Corp than any other entity. Let's get into it, right? So C Corps are subject to more regulations and reporting compared to other business structures, and rightly so, because if they're raising millions and millions of dollars, you don't just want to have any cowboy wasting those millions of dollars or taking you for a ride. You want to make sure that they're legitimate people, they're doing the right filings, and all of that means regulations and reporting, right? Which does make it more complex and more expensive. With those extra requirements means there's more time, energy, and effort needed to do those things properly, which ultimately means it's going to cost more to do it. So if it is important, you can take the extra steps, but if it isn't, you may be better off with an S Corp or an LLC. You do the work. Like most things in life, nobody likes administration. Problem is, there's a lot of administration with C Corps. So, with all of this extra requirements, there's annual meetings, there's meeting minutes, there's all this complexity to comply with regulations and a whole range of formalities that you have to follow, right? And that is going to increase the admin burden, no doubt whatsoever. So if you're not willing to either do that extra administrative work and comply with the rules and regulations, which are more complex, just don't do a C Corp. If it's not that important to raise capital of over 100 people or more, really, you probably don't need a C Corp. You'd be better off using an S Corp or an LLC. But again, check with your local professional who knows your scenario and your situation, and you can figure that out for yourself. But there is a lot of extra things that you need to do with a C Corp that most would argue are unnecessary. So that's why it is the least frequently of the three used when creating business structures. Like we mentioned already, there's a lot more admin, there's a lot more complexity, which ultimately means it's just going to cost you more money to do a C Corp compared to an S Corp or an LLC. Now that could be okay, it just depends on what your needs are. So let's dig into that. So forming a C Corp typically involves higher initial costs, as we explained, and then you've got to factor in legal and accounting fees as well, because when you're setting up a C Corp, usually you're going to be raising capital. That then means you need additional legal documents like, shareholder agreements, whether it's preferred stock, whether it's common stock, all of these other things that, or whether it's just a safe note. There's so many different things you could do, all need legal advice. And legal advice is very, very expensive. As we know, get a good lawyer, you're going to pay north of $500 per hour for that. You probably need a team of lawyers to be drafting these documents and make sure that you're in compliance at all times. Then, with that additional compliance and cap tables, you need a better accounting team too. So, unless you're willing to go through all of that effort and headache, you might not want a C Corp. Life changes, things happen. Sometimes you want to transfer the ownership of your assets to somebody else or a different entity. That could be a little more tricky with a C Corp than others, right? Because transferring ownership of a C Corp compared to an LLC, it's the sale of stock, right? So you're going to have an agreement in place. Sometimes you need all the shareholders to buy into that in order to make that transaction. And it's more than likely going to create a taxable event as well. So there's lots of products and byproducts you need to look at, all these layers and knock-on consequences of that transfer if not done correctly. To wrap things up, in conclusion, the reason that a C Corp would make sense is if you're looking to raise capital and to be raising capital to over 100 people. So if you want, it is a good choice if you want to raise capital, like we said, right? And then have over 100 shareholders. But it's important on the other side to figure out the cost and the admin requirements and the compliance requirements required in order to do that. Personally, my favorite type of business entity is a complex trust because it offers you so much more bang for your buck and can provide you and your family so much more value with a much lower cost. I think the best business entity to use is a complex trust, and here's why. So it's so much more powerful than a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC because you can do more things with it, right? So with specifically a complex trust, you can accumulate corpus, which means you do not have to make a distribution every single year, and you can allocate those funds to the principal of the trust, reducing your taxes. You get so much more additional privacy in this type of trust compared to a C Corp or an LLC, where there's a lot of public record where people can search what assets you own in your own name. Back to assets, there we go. You can protect your assets if they're owned by a complex trust much more efficiently than if they were in your own name. If you were to have a lawsuit come against you, you could potentially lose all your assets, right? If the trust owns the assets, they are going to be protected much more efficiently than if they were in your own name. Tax savings. I don't know many people who don't want to save money on taxes. If you have the right type of complex trust structure created, you can significantly reduce your tax burden the same way these billionaires operate in the elite families. If you look at a past president who's paid no taxes at all, he has an abundance of different trusts set up. The likes of Warren Buffett have this type of structure set up. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and the list is endless. Wealth transfer. All right, so at some point in time, I'm assuming most people would like to pass on their wealth to their heirs. You can do that in a completely tax-free way by using a complex trust. And that leads us to the last point of legacy creation, where you can create a long-lasting legacy for your future heirs if you have the right type of trust structure created, which is a complex trust. Now, this type of trust isn't for everybody. It's only for a small subsection of people. So let's dig into who those people are, if that's you, if it even makes sense. So if you're paying over $200,000 a year on taxes, then likelihood is it does make sense, and it's worth scanning this QR code right here so you can set up a call with my team. Once you set up a call, we're going to give you a review right there and then on the call of your current tax situation, how good it is, how bad it is, where the holes are, and more importantly, how much you've been overpaying every single year on your taxes, right? Then we're going to take it one level further, and we're going to create a plan for you to show you how to stop the bleeding so you don't have to overpay on taxes anymore. That's all good and well if you pay over $200,000 per year in taxes, but what if you don't? If you're on the lower end of that scale and you pay less than $200,000 a year, we've got something for you too. So thanks for sticking around this long. So what that is our free community. We have a free tax savings community. You can click on the link below and join that, where we're constantly talking about the latest and greatest strategies and loopholes that you can use and implement today to save money on taxes. We've just created a PDF report with the top 50 loopholes you can use right now. And I would recommend you download that, send it to your CPA, and have him or her tell you how many of those loopholes you've used, and more importantly, why you haven't used the other ones. Because with everything that they miss, you're paying more money. So we want to try and help you to reduce your taxes and pay less in tax. So whether you're paying over 200K, scan this right here, or whether you're paying under 200K in taxes, join our free community and we can help you save more money on taxes. Thank you so much for sticking around this long. If you found any value at all in the video, please remember to hit the like button below, comment or subscribe. We will make more videos like this. If you want us, please leave a comment with the next topic you would like me to make a video on. We will do that just for you. Even better, share this with someone if you found any value, or if you think that this can help someone that you care about. We would love to help spread the message and add as much value as possible. Stick around for the future videos up here and one up here. Peace.